Hi everybody, welcome back. Today we're making lacto fermented sauerkraut, and I'm going to show you how simple this is. It's a really important part of my family's diet. We eat a lot of sauerkraut for all of its amazing health benefits, and it is so much cheaper to make it at home. All you really need to get started is a cabbage. Fresh, of course, is going to be better, but even in the middle of winter, if you get a grocery store cabbage, it's still going to work great. It just might not be making as much of its own natural juices, but we'll get to that in a bit. You need a cabbage, you need some salt, and you need a vessel to do your ferment in. So this is just a non-porous, non-reactive vessel. Glass is wonderful, but a ceramic crock would also work. I do a lot of fermenting, so I have purchased a pickle pipe set and some pickle weights. So if you are getting into fermenting and you plan to do quite a bit of it, I really do think that these are worthwhile investments, but just know that you can get started without those if you want to get started on a budget or you're not sure if this is going to be something you're going to continue to do and you're not ready to buy those yet. You can get started without them, but they are really handy tools. All right, first things first, we need to core our cabbage. I just cut it in half. And this core here is very woody. It's not very tasty nor a nice texture. So we're just gonna cut that out. Okay, now we're gonna slice our cabbage, and the thickness is a little bit personal preference. I prefer thinner slices, but some people do prefer like a thicker, chunky sauerkraut. So play with that, do whatever makes you happy. Okay, we've got all of our cabbage very thinly sliced, or a little chunkier if that's what you're into. But we've got it all sliced up pretty evenly sized slices so that it ferments pretty evenly. We get an even texture throughout the whole batch. Now we're going to salt it. Now you're gonna wanna use about 1 to 3 tablespoons of salt per medium head of cabbage. And that's a pretty broad range. Yes, but that depends on a few factors. So the size of grain of salt you're using will impact how much you'll use in the summer months. If it's warmer, your kitchen is more like 80 degrees, you might want to use a little bit extra salt just to help keep the bacteria in check during the fermentation. And also taste. Taste is the third factor. You can salt according to taste. If you like it a little saltier, or if you're maybe low sodium and you need to keep it a little bit less salt, or if you just don't like that really salty taste, all of those things can impact how much salt you're gonna use. I'm using a really fine salt today, and it is about 70 degrees in my kitchen, so I'm gonna start with exactly 1 tablespoon. Just sprinkled over all the cabbage here. So now that we have put a little bit of salt on this, it is time to give it a good rub. We're going to massage the cabbage to help it release some of its natural juices. The goal, of course, is that it produces enough of its own juices to completely submerge the cabbage in its own brine. But if you're using a supermarket cabbage that isn't the freshest, you might need to add a little bit of water. If you have kids or grandkids, little kitchen helpers, this is a super fun job for little ones. They love massaging the cabbage. Once you're getting it pretty well massaged, it's starting to be pretty limp. A lot of moisture is coming out. It's no longer really crisp and crunchy. Then this is a great time to taste a little bit and see if you want to add more salt. I actually think that's perfectly salty. So for me, I'm not gonna add more salt. Looks like it is about ready. I have a clean, it doesn't need to be sterilized, just a clean vessel for fermenting. And I'm gonna use a 1/2 gallon mason jar. Always err a little on the side of caution when selecting your vessel, like go a little bit larger than smaller, because you don't want to have an explosion where you have brine all over the counter, it's definitely better to give yourself a little extra room than not quite enough room. I always opt for something wide enough to fit my hand in. So a wide mouth mason jar works fine for me, but definitely it's handy to be able to stick your hand in there. You wanna push it down as good as you can, get air bubbles out and release some more of that brine. Now we did get quite a bit of juice out of this one. It's close, but I'm gonna top this up with a little bit of water just to kind of top off and make sure everything is really well submerged. It is really important that it be completely submerged under a liquid at all times because that's going to prevent mold and unwanted bacteria growth. So that is why I use a pickle pipe. Also, people use a sterilized rock of an appropriate size to fit on whatever container they're using, or you can use an intact cabbage leaf pressed down to help keep everything under the brine, keep it from floating up and causing problems while it's fermenting. I'm gonna use my pickle pipe, but again, if you haven't invested in something like this yet or fermentation lock, you can just leave a regular lid on this and then you'll need to burp it every day. And what that means is you just loosen the lid to release that built up fermentation pressure every day, once or twice a day, to just let the pressure out. Otherwise, you can end up with explosions. So this is really nice and low maintenance because it has a little vent at the top. So it's not letting anything in, but it is letting the gases out. So there we have it. All right, that's basically it. I'm just gonna set this in the kitchen somewhere, not in direct sunlight, but not necessarily dark, just on the counter. And I'm gonna let it do its thing for a week or two. After about a week, I'll start tasting it to see if I have reached the flavor and texture that I like. So I wouldn't go past 2 weeks and I wouldn't go under 1 week. So at 1 week, you can start tasting it. If you're kind of new to sauerkraut and to ferments, you might like the more mild flavor at about 1 week. But if you really like a stronger flavor, 2 weeks might be more your style. And again, how fast it ferments really depends on how much salt you use and the temperature of the room that you're fermenting in. So not every batch will be the same. There's no set, this many hours is gonna give you this result. It really is something that you need to just kind of keep an eye on and taste as you go. And then when it is at the level that you like, put it into a refrigerator or a cold basement, cold garage, a root cellar, wherever you have available that is cool in that like 40-degree range for a little bit longer term storage. That will slow to the point of almost stopping the fermentation, and it will last a really long time in cold storage for you. Once you've mastered the basic sauerkraut and you want to start experimenting, it's really easy to start doing different things to make your own unique sauerkraut variations with all the same wonderful health benefits. You can add 1 part of most any vegetable you can think of to every 5 parts of cabbage. So if you had 5 cups of cabbage, you could add 1 cup of shredded carrots, zucchini, cucumber, whatever sounds really interesting and delicious to you, you could give it a try. 1 part of something different for every 5 parts of cabbage. You can also do any herbs and spices that you really enjoy. Try dill and garlic, that is delicious. Also caraway, cumin. There's a lot of really delicious spices and herbs that you can add to sauerkraut for your own unique flavor twist. Thank you guys for joining me in the kitchen again for this fun, easy ferment. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know in the comments if you did, and also let me know if you've tried this or if you've made sauerkraut at home in a different manner. I'd love to hear from you guys, and as always, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.